If Mario can take a quirky crossover nobody expected, turn it into a tactics game, and be massively successful, then what else could work in this genre? That's the question behind this list. Some picks are obvious fits, others are sleepers, but they all share worlds, characters, or mechanics that I think would feel right at home with this gameplay style. So here are 10 franchises I'd love to see try tactics. And I want to hear yours too. Drop your dream spinoff in the comments. I guarantee there are some wild ones that I didn't even think of. This first one is a bit personal, so I'm just going to rip the band-aid off right away. Classic Blizzard games, StarCraft, Warcraft, and Diablo. I grew up on these franchises, and it's a shame that we'll probably never see them at that caliber again. Rumors have gone around for years about a first-person or third-person shooter project in the StarCraft universe being resurrected, but to that, my counteroffer is a more adjacent genre. Tactics. Now I know these are titans in the real-time strategy genre, but some of my favorite missions in both StarCraft and Warcraft were the ones where you had a small squad of soldiers and had to survive as you made your way to the objective. This type of mission is basically squad-based tactics already, and the lore of the classic Blizzard games is insanely deep, allowing for any number of settings and stories to be told. Whether it was a prologue in the early days of the Confederacy, or a story following a very specific arc, like Nova or Tosh and the Ghost program that has been mentioned many times. Warcraft is no different. A tactics game could feature a tale set during the War of the Ancients, or any number of conflicts between the Horde and the Alliance. And a big bonus is there could be a campaign for both sides, with a focus on more personal, in-depth narratives that complement the larger universe and lore. I personally love the Lich King story and Fall of Arthas, so a game following a band of survivors from the Culling of Stratholme, or something in that time period, would be must-play material. Toss in all 4 factions from Warcraft 3, and there's plenty of variety and ways you could spin this. Last on this list is Diablo, which I really think could keep the same hook and loot-driven experience, maybe with a roguelike style system, where you play as random adventurers drawn to the cathedral in Tristram, descending deeper and deeper towards hell. We know that heroes came from far and wide, and many perished in the levels beneath the church, so this would be a great opportunity for co-op, character customization and naming, plus boss battles, inventory management, and tiered loot that would drop as you progress. I mean, they tried a mobile version of the game. Why not tactics, right? Fallout has already given us turn-based roots in the originals, so a tactics game is practically baked in. And no, I'm not talking about simply remastering Brotherhood of Steel, although diving deep into that faction could offer some very interesting story possibilities. If you've ever played a modern Fallout, you know that sense of wonder when you first exit the vault, this whole new world being open to you with the freedom to explore. It's a moment I always look forward to, and in my opinion is peak Fallout. Not to mention the Vault Dweller setup is tailor-made for character creation and customization. The series already blends survival mechanics, companion management, and RPG progression, everything that's a natural fit for tactical combat, right alongside the VAT system. I've never felt that shooting or combat in general was all that intuitive in the Fallout games, but in this particular genre, it could really shine. Beyond that, the lore is so vast that you could easily spin campaigns around different factions and choices. A Brotherhood of Steel arc about reclaiming lost tech, a ghoul-focused story showing survival on the fringes of society, or even a wasteland survival campaign where food, radiation, and resources matter, with you making all of the morally gray decisions the series is known for. Fans have been toying with this idea for years. Fallout Tactics mods and discussions pop up pretty regularly, which shows there's already a community hungry to see Fallout reimagined this way. It's not just a cool what if, it feels like such an obvious fit for tactics. But what do you think? Would you want a spin-off in the Wasteland, or should Fallout stick more to its modern RPG path? Giant mechs fighting kaiju. This one almost designs itself. Pacific Rim's focus on team-based piloting and resource management screams tactics potential. And I don't know about you, but I really liked the lore and world building, although I was disappointed that it never felt like it was used to its full potential. The first movie showed us where mankind was already on the brink, but a game could take us further back, diving into a self-contained story about how we got to that point and the beginnings of the Jaeger program. This is the perfect setup up for XCOM-style global management and tech research, while initially being underfunded and outmatched taking on the kaiju menace. In addition, this could be a squad-building dream, with recruitable pilots from across the world balancing drift compatibility ratings and emphasizing the power of soldier bonds. Pilots with higher compatibility could have combat buffs or unique skills, while lower ratings could still be usable but prone to malfunctions. Casualties are also to be expected during the kaiju war, opening the door for nameable, customizable pilots with permadeath possibilities. All of this before we even get into the Jaegers themselves. Each one could be a customizable unit, and given the crazy range of weapons we've seen in the movies, the possibilities are endless. Melee staples like power swords could be complemented by more interesting choices like chains and whips, and of course the heavy weapons, lasers, rockets, and grenades. Mix and matching all of this with different equipment like thrusters, armor, and electronic warfare systems makes me excited just thinking about it. As a bonus, we could have some awesome action cams with kaiju executions or combo attacks. Turn-based strategy could finally give Pacific Rim the scale and tension that it deserves. Squad-based tactics is literally G.I. Joe's whole DNA. This is a franchise built around specialized operatives, unique abilities, and clashing against an equally diverse enemy in Cobra. Yet somehow, we've never gotten a proper tactics game out of it. Think about it. Every Joe has a distinct skill set, personality, and battlefield specialty. You've got heavy weapons experts, stealth operatives, vehicle pilots, snipers, and my favorite, the iconic ninjas like Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow. That lineup already feels like a tactics roster screen just waiting to happen. As far as mechanics go, G.I. Joe practically writes itself. You could build squads where synergy truly affects gameplay, pairing a recon scout with long-range Overwatch, or combining demolitions and support classes for high-action, big set-piece takedowns. Cobra would be the perfect opposing faction with endless enemy variety, foot soldiers, advanced tech, experimental weapons, and boss-style characters that lead each encounter. Plus, as someone who loves to play the villains, I could see fans really enjoying a Cobra campaign as well. And let's not forget the vehicles. From jets and hovercrafts to the classic Hiss tank, they could play a huge role in mission variety, as limited, high-cost assets or with scenarios specifically designed around them. The beauty of a G.I. Joe tactics game is that it wouldn't have to do much heavy lifting for the world. The lore, factions, and characters are already loved and easily recognizable. Bonus points if it manages to nail that Saturday morning cartoon vibe. By the way, if you're enjoying the list and want to see more videos about tactics and strategy games, make sure to hit subscribe. And if you'd like to support the channel more directly, memberships are also a huge help and linked in the description below. Resident Evil has a lot of tactical elements baked in. It's just missing that squad-based layer. The series is all about limited resources, careful planning, and deciding whether to fight or run. That constant tension feels like it would translate perfectly into a tactical framework. And maybe I'm biased, but I think the genre could use way more horror options. At its core, Resident Evil has the perfect foundation to make this work. Small teams of characters with different specialties, stars or umbrella operatives, police officers, mercenaries, dropped into situations where every bullet counts and every choice could mean life or death. Survival elements like ammo scarcity, weapon durability, and inventory management align with traditional systems, while scavenging and light crafting add that extra layer of mechanics. On top of that, the blend of enemies just makes sense. Zombies provide overwhelming, slow-moving pressure, complemented by lickers and hunters to push the pace, and tyrant or nemesis-style bosses that are hard to kill and stalk you across multiple missions. Each type would force you to adapt and rethink your squad's approach. That's not even touching the Las Plagas variants, which would expand the possibilities even further. Narratively, this franchise has played a bit loose with its overarching story for a while now, and while that makes for plenty of possibilities, there are still a few classic scenarios that could be revisited. Imagine leading a squad during the early Raccoon City outbreak, or a large-scale campaign with Umbrella operatives cleaning up bioweapon messes around the globe. You could even rewind to the origins of STARS, building toward the mansion incident that started it all. Personally, I think this would work best if the big-name characters showed up in cameos, but weren't actually a part of your squad. That way there's less plot armor, more customization, and real permadeath potential, making the loss of your limited available survivors hit that much harder. Resident Evil Tactics could deliver horror in a whole new way, slower but deadlier. Bloodborne might not be the first franchise people think of for a tactics spin-off, but since we clearly aren't getting a remaster or sequel anytime soon, why not a new take? This is a game defined by positioning, timing, and brutal resource management, all things that translate seamlessly to squad-based strategy. The punishing difficulty matches perfectly with high-stakes tactical combat, with a gothic horror setting that would give it a completely unique identity in the genre. Imagine leading teams of hunters through dark alleyways crawling with beasts, cathedrals echoing with eldritch horrors, or sprawling hunts through the streets of Yharnam. The campaign could mirror the original game's descent into a nightmare, with challenging, larger-than-life boss fights keeping the spirit and capping off chapters. Bloodborne's combat design also offers natural tactical variety. Different specialties and an array of transforming weapons would make each hunter feel unique. Do you keep the saw cleaver in fast mode for quick strikes, or extend it out for slower but more devastating area of effect attacks? Layer that with firearms and parrying, consumables like Molotovs and blood vials, and you'd have highly customizable squads where every action carries real weight. Additionally, permadeath fits this setting almost too well. Hunters are constantly risking their lives against overwhelming odds, and losing one reinforces the harsh, unforgiving tone of the world. Survivors, meanwhile, would grow stronger, earning new abilities as their insight deepens, but at the cost of a creeping madness. Nobody walks out of Yharnam unchanged. Lastly, the foundation of the lore is rich yet vague enough that a campaign could explore entirely new angles. Hunters banding together during the height of the beast plague in Old Yharnam, or even expeditions that push into and expand on the nightmare frontier we got a small piece of in the original game. Bloodborne already thrives on tension, atmosphere, and the thrill of overcoming impossible odds, so a tactics spin-off could capture all of that in a way that feels both fresh and faithful. Ghostbusters might sound like an oddball pick, but the fit is actually spot on for a deep strategy game. The franchise is all about a squad of specialists facing unpredictable threats, the exact setup that Tactics thrives on. The nature of ghost encounters would offer possibilities for unique gameplay, like proton packs to weaken targets, coordinated positioning to contain them, and springing traps at just the right moment. This game would be more about technique and teamwork rather than raw firepower. A wide variety of spirits could offer fresh mechanics to each fight, swarms of smaller ghosts covering the battlefield, poltergeists manipulating and destroying cover, and the obvious Gears Tactics style boss fights against iconic enemies like Stay Puft and Vigo. Mix in the trademark Ghostbusters humor, and it's a chaotic, more light-hearted take on the genre. But that's not all. Ghostbusters lore runs surprisingly deep. Over the years, the series has dipped into ancient gods, alternate dimensions, and all sorts of crazy crossovers. A campaign could start small, a haunted library or string of neighborhood jobs, and escalate into dealing with cosmic-level threats across entire cities. Another unique aspect this game could deliver on is a strategy layer that would tie it all together. Remember, at the end of the day, Ghostbusters is a business, and a business requires management. Would you take every call, even the low-paying ones, to keep your reputation up, or would you only take the big jobs and invest those funds into new tech, expanding the HQ, and hiring rookies? These systems would add a slower, more deliberate meta progression to balance out the chaos of the field missions. A Ghostbusters tactics game could nail all three pillars: the satisfaction of coordinated captures, the humor and personality fans love, and the surprising scale of a universe that stretches far beyond New York. Done right, it could be one of the most unique spins the genre has ever seen. But that's one of the most exciting things about strategy games, the variety and potential for even the most unlikely worlds to work. So tell me, what's the craziest franchise you think would actually make a killer tactics game? MegaMan could be a natural fit here, even if it's not the most obvious franchise. The series is all about adapting on the fly, picking the right tools, finding weaknesses, and using teamwork in conjunction with powers. Sounds like tactics gameplay to me. How many times as a kid did you wish that you could play as the Robot Masters? Imagine squads of them reprogrammed and working alongside Mega Man and Dr. Light. The abilities speak for themselves. Hard knuckles destroying cover and barriers, bouncing Gemini lasers, and over-the-top attacks like the Time Stopper, Black Hole Bomb, or Magma Bazooka. It would be a giant tactical sandbox where players could combine powers and manipulate the map to outthink their enemies. Mega Man also has one of the deepest character rosters in gaming, on both sides. Enemy variety is almost endless, with a selection of mechanized grunts, mid-tier bosses, and legendary foes like Yellow Devil or the Guardians of Wily Castle. Combining this with the massive amount of robot masters across the Mega Man universe, the potential for tactical set pieces and iconic locations is staggering. To top it all off, the lore of this franchise is deeper and a bit darker than most people realize, spanning multiple eras and games that explore themes like rogue AI, post-apocalyptic worlds, and devastating wars, with the struggle between robots and humanity as a centerpiece. An original story that combines threads from multiple games is definitely not out of the question. It's that mix of bright, fast-paced action, memorable powers, and high-stakes storytelling that makes Mega Man a prime candidate. A tactics game could finally pull all of that together in a way that platformers just can't, making it into a strategic experience that rewards planning, creativity, and team synergy. Alright, here's my sleeper pick, Delta Green, a dark tabletop RPG that blends modern espionage with cosmic horror. Think government agents uncovering forbidden knowledge, fighting cults, and slowly losing themselves to paranoia. On the surface, it's about tactical operations, squads moving in the shadows, neutralizing threats, or investigating strange events. But underneath that, it's just as much about the psychological toll of staring into the void. A full-scale tactical RPG could probably capture this better than a simple mission-based system. Every choice, who you bring, how you approach a mission, what truths you allow your team to uncover, could ripple into long-term consequences. Players would have to manage stress, sanity, and secrecy, making every decision a heavy one. Mechanically, the mix of investigation and combat is a perfect fit for turn-based play. Missions wouldn't just be firefights against cultists and otherworldly creatures, but instead include infiltration, gathering intel under pressure, or retreating to preserve an agent's mental stability. Imagine a scenario where a firefight is actually the worst possible outcome, with your agent only having a pistol and on the verge of a massive psychological break. That's Delta Green. Maybe a bit too intense, but with the right balance, I could see it being extremely engaging. Storytelling is where the potential truly lies, though. Customizable, expendable agents could tackle small-town investigations or conspiracies that escalate up to cosmic horror. Campaigns could explore a blend of cult activity, shadowy organizations, or eldritch entities, giving players a sense of creeping attrition as they deal with things like paranoia, addiction, and PTSD alongside physical injuries. In short, Delta Green could be like the anti-XCOM, not a triumphant march to victory, but a fragile, desperate attempt to hold back the inevitable, where sometimes winning just means surviving the night. Originally, Star Wars was going to be on this list too, but since there's actually a Star Wars tactics game being made, by former XCOM developers no less, you can check out everything you need to know about that by clicking through to the video that's on screen now.